So my client base it ranges pretty wide. My youngest client being 12 years old, and my eldest being 99, who will be graduating with her master's degree this summer, and I'm so excited for her. We've been on this journey together for 2 years, just bringing her to the point where she felt worthy of getting that degree at her age. There is this stirring that I'm seeing specifically in feminines, but also moving into the masculines, which is really, I think it's incentivizing and also like exciting to see that people are healing. And what I'm seeing more and more, what people are craving is authenticity. And I wanted to talk about it today because literally a 14-year-old client asked me this past weekend what it means to her to be authentic. She wants to figure it out. I sat with a very dear friend last night who I am co-creating a coven with, and she had mentioned the same thing, that she wants to bring forward people who are in their authenticity, and it seems to be a word that keeps coming up more and more and more and more. Now, is it a phenomenon where people are doing therapy, like they're in therapy and they're learning it and it's more of a buzzword, or are people really interested in doing the work? And, I remember being a kid, if I'm I can't imagine being 99, so I'm gonna imagine being 12 or 14. And I remember, really great advice coming my way, like be yourself and, do what's right, and all of those pieces of advice are really good, except for the fact that the media that's out there and also the societal pressure was crushing to assimilate and to be good and to behave and not to be authentic, right? It's like you just fall in line and you do what's right and that's it. And the more that I would do that, the further away from myself I felt. And I'm finding that folks between like 12 and 99, if we're really kind of going there, are all looking into how they can stop distancing themselves from themselves to make everyone else happy. And so I wanted to talk about authenticity today and what it means to me, because also like I did a little bit of meditating this morning, and my guides of course are flashing it in like neon letters. I love me a neon moment. But they wanted to speak more to like, they wanted me to explain how I came to get there. And what I usually call it is, and you've heard me say this in my readings before, is being unfuckable with. When you are very specifically unfuckable with, it means that you are your authentic self, you are like public facing, mask down, right? Or maybe it's the right mask up, but you are transparent, you are open-minded, you are boundaried, it's like, it's kind of the way that I come out to the world is it doesn't matter what people think of me, I am just gonna be who I am, Today I'm auntie with my hair, auntie hair. I literally woke up last night or this morning with like mermaid hair, and I was like, this is not happening, so it's just went up. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about it. When you are in your authenticity, it means that you are in alignment with your true self. Now, how do you get to your true self? That takes work. That takes looking at yourself and taking note of the things that you love about yourself and also the things that you can work on, right? It also takes looking at the narratives of what have been shown to you, like growing up, if you were told that you were too much or you were not enough or that you were unlovable or that, it's like you weren't worth you were not worth being shown up for. It's like you think about all those things that were packed into your upbringing, and whether it came from family, friends, loved ones, organized religion or church, if it came from your community, economic status, any of those things, when you unpack all of that conditioning that happened to you when you were a kid, and then you become an adult and you decide to do the work to become authentic, you have to make the decision to leave all of those things behind. You cannot identify yourself with that anymore. You cannot play the victim for it anymore. You can't be like, oh, I grew up this way and this is why I am, the way that I am. That's no excuse. That just means that you're not willing to move forward in your emotional maturity. Like you're not willing to emotionally evolve. A lot of times, and I'm not saying this across the board for traumas, because like obviously, there's a lot of trauma-informed decisions that we have to move through. I'm talking about conditioning and repetitive action that made us who we are as adults, and the limited I would say the limited mindset that we have that makes us say, I can't do this, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about trauma. But when you are in alignment with yourself, sometimes when you are authentic, it could be off-putting to other people. You could show up in a room with energy that is not small. You could have opinions that don't fall in line with everyone else's. It can look like many things, but you are in alignment with your true self. And when I look down, I'm looking at my notes because I took notes on like my meditation this morning. The other thing is being open-minded. You cannot be in your authenticity if you look at a group of people and you're like, they suck, right? You have to look at a group of people, and if there's something about them you don't like, you have to ask yourself, what is it about the reflection of them onto me or me onto them that I don't like? You have to do the work around it, but you can't just judge people upon appearance only. The other thing is that you are healed and boundaried. Like, there was someone I was talking to a couple days ago that when she said that when she first met me, she said that I seemed aloof to her, and I get that a lot. But she watched me throughout the day because I was reading at a shop that day, and someone asked something about witchcraft, and my opinion was asked, and I am my human design is projector, so I'm always waiting for the invitation. And so for good 10-15 minutes, I was like, this is what you need, right? And that person realized that I was just saving my energy, until I needed to expel it. I have healthy boundaries, and I will not let people step all over them. And it's taken me a very long time. Like, I thought I had healed boundaries in my 20s. I surely did not. And I thought I had it at 40, and I surely did not. And it took me a really long time to learn what, I will allow to happen, what I'm capable of handling, and what I just won't, what I won't even entertain. And I've gotten really good at verbally giving my boundaries so that people don't misunderstand what's going on with me. Becoming self-aware, I will say this, one big thing that comes up a lot in your authenticity, when your wounds show, and I'm talking about the wounds that you have not healed from childhood and conditioning, it usually manifests in the way of emotional immaturity. It usually manifests in the way of victim mentality, the why me, what happened to me that I deserve this. If you still have that narrative, you're not self-aware, and you need that self-awareness to be in your authenticity. That way you're not making people pay for your shortcomings or what you feel are your shortcomings. You've made your peace with it. You don't ride or die with it. You just let it go. You release it. The one thing that stands the strongest to me is your value and your belief systems do not conform with societal expectations and pressure. That is something that took me a very long time to do. I grew up Catholic. I grew up in a very strict household. It's like I was told, here's your box, here's where you fit, here's where you go, right? Organized religion will do that for you, especially if you're a feminine, because you are taught to believe that deities and godliness exist outside of you, but certainly not within you, because you were born with sin. And that was something, an identity that I had to let go of, because surely, at the end of the day, I'm not born evil or bad. None of us are. I am not a bad person. I don't have to make it up to anyone, especially a deity, or to any masculines who are human. It's like when your value system and your beliefs don't conform with everything else. And that was something that I started feeling around 14 or 15. And it's interesting, when I talk to my younger clients, I see that they're starting to get it a lot earlier than I did. Like, instead of trying to just be good or obedient or try to just take things at face value, they're asking all the right questions and making the decision, is this really for me? And I have to applaud that, because what usually happens is that when you just take things for the way that they are and you immediately conform, you are out of alignment so much so that when you hit your 20s, it manifests in traumas or risky behaviors or disassociation. Why not do the work sooner rather than later? And then lastly, I want to say that when you are in your authenticity, you are in congruence with, you walk the walk, you talk the talk. Even if it makes other people uncomfortable, you have integrity. And that is the biggest thing, is that I would say that authenticity and integrity are very much synonymous. And it's something that I really appreciate. You can tell by the way that someone holds themselves, the way that they conduct themselves in conversation, whether they have integrity or not. And that usually comes in the form of, they have a regulated somatic system. They don't lead with, a lot of victim mentality. They're good listeners. They're good contributors to conversation on an intellectual level. That is how you know people are authentic. Now, it looks different for everybody. You know, it looks different for the 12-year-old I talked to or the 14-year-old I talked to this weekend. And it looks different for my 99-year-old client who is going to be walking across, you know, the stage in May. It's different for all of us. But when you start to feel, I would say when you start to test your own boundaries around it, a lot of it comes across as like crossing boundaries. You're gonna test your boundaries first, and then you lay down your boundaries, and then you let go of the guilt around doing that. And the next thing is like, okay, well, I have that. You know, how do I open my mind even further beyond that? Now I'm not putting all this energy into holding my boundaries. What else is out there? Who else can I bring into my circle who are reflecting the energy that I'm reflecting? That is how you find your authenticity. And I just wanted to communicate this because it's something that was on my mind. I've been talking about it all week, and it seems to be something that people are craving these days, is just being authentic, having integrity, and just being a good fucking person in general. So I'm curious to how authenticity shows up in your lives and how you recognize them in other people. Feel free to comment or shoot me a DM, but I love to make this an open conversation because I want people to learn from that experience. It's a good one. All right, have a good day. I'm gonna take my auntie hair somewhere else.